Welcome to HP Fanfiction. Support me by subscribing the channel. Also, like and share the video to keep me motivated to make more videos like these. Well, the doctor stretched. I suppose we'd better get back to the Zeppelin. I guess, Harry agreed, triggering the port. Welcome back, my friend, the professor smiled. I trust you had fun. Let's just say that it was enlightening, Harry grinned. Did you all have fun? Yes, we did, the professor nodded. The architect has gone off to the island to do his initial survey, and we've contacted several other goblins about our plan to mine titanium. Great, Harry nodded. Absolutely great. On a side note, the professor smiled, we've picked up 2 new crew members, a tailor and his wife. What are their names? Harry blinked. That shopkeep moved up another place on the list. I can't pronounce them, the professor shrugged, so we've just been calling them the tailor and the leather worker. Oh, that's nice, Harry nodded. Let's go to the bridge, the professor smiled, so that we may set a course for our next destination. Okay, Harry shrugged. Harry and the professor walked to the bridge, and Harry made a beeline to the center of the room after he got through the door. Where to now? The professor asked, ignoring the way Harry had taken the Zeppelin's wheel and the vrooming sounds he was making. Thailand, Harry smiled. Great beaches and cool temples. Hench girl, the professor turned. Set a course for Bangkok. Do it now. You really need to find a better end to that, Hench girl replied, as she locked in the course. Do it now just doesn't flow. I know, the professor drooped. But you guys voted down my suggestion of hiring scriptwriters to get us all really cool lines. I'll just go down to my cabin. Harry backed out of the room and let the 2 of you resolve this conversation in peace. He's gone. The professor peeked through the door to watch Harry leave. Good, Hench girl took the wheel. Vroom, vroom. I'm next. The professor eyed the wheel. So don't take too long. We have arrived, the professor smiled as he told Harry. Hench girl and I are going to head for the beach after we drop you off. I'll meet you there later tonight, Harry nodded. No need, the professor blinked. We can return later tonight if you wish. That'll work, Harry nodded. What are the others doing? The doctor is going to visit a Red Cross snake farm, the architect is starting construction of your dark fortress, and the tailor and his wife are coming with us to the beach. Snake farm? Harry blinked. She says that parts of it are open to the public, the professor shuddered. Not for me, thanks. Have fun at the beach, Harry got on the port pad. Port me down. Harry arrived in front of a large statue in the middle of a roundabout and took a moment to admire the large bronze statue. Shrugging his shoulders, he walked over to the road and hailed a cab. Yes, the man rolled down his window. First of all, Harry smiled. Where am I? Wang Win Yai, the cab driver smiled. Where would you like to go? Is the snake farm near here? Harry got in the cab. Not far, the man nodded. It's over the bridge and a bit up the road. Then let's go there, Harry nodded. I've got a friend that's visiting the place, and I want to see what all the fuss is about. The cab turned down one of the many streets feeding the roundabout and continued up it for several blocks. So what are you doing in Thailand? The cab driver asked with a smile. Just visiting, Harry shrugged. Seems like a nice place. Where are you from? The driver glanced back. England. Harry looked out the window and noticed that the cab was pulling over a bridge. Nice place? It's not bad, Harry nodded. The cab pulled off the bridge and past a large hospital. That big building up ahead is the place. Great, Harry nodded, pulling out his wallet. Let me off on the curb up here. Have a nice day, the driver leaned back and held out his hand. Here you are, Harry glanced at the meter and handed the driver about 500 baht. Harry got out of the cab and waited at the curb for the light to change. Rushing across, Harry walked through a large gate and looked in awe at the large building. Paying the fee, Harry walked into the park and looked down into the large enclosures at the large snakes. Hello, he hissed down at one of the large snakes. What kind of snake are you? A king cobra, the snake replied lazily. Are you here to watch my show? Yes, Harry hissed back. It will be a while, the snake raised its head. Thank you, Harry smiled. That was extraordinarily interesting, a voice from behind startled Harry. I haven't seen one of your kind here for quite some time. My kind? Harry raised an eyebrow. A Parselmouth? The man nodded. Did he tell you if he was happy here? We mostly talked about the show, Harry shrugged. Fascinating, the small man seemed to zone out for a moment. Forgive my manners, I am Dr. Hanuman Kanchanaburi. Mr. Black, Harry nodded. What do you do here? I work for the Red Cross. Dr. Kanchanaburi smiled proudly. We use the snake venom to make anti-venom to treat snake bites. Sounds interesting, Harry nodded. How many snakes do you have here? Quite a few, the man shrugged. I don't know exactly, I just work with the venom. May I ask you a question? Sure, Harry nodded. We have a woman here with some extraordinary blood samples that she tells us she got from a man named Mr. Black. Would you happen to be the same Mr. Black? I might be, Harry shrugged. I have a friend here that might have brought some blood samples. Then could we go meet with her to make sure that this isn't some sort of mistaken identity? Dr. Kanchanaburi smiled. I very much want to try an experiment with her, Mr. Black, and I wish to be sure that he is you. Okay. Harry's eyes crossed a bit. Will it take long? There are a few other things I'd like to try today. No, not long. The man shook his head, at least in the short term. You'll have plenty of time to come back and see the snake show. Harry followed the other man into the building and up a flight of stairs. Hello, Mr. Black. The doctor smiled at Harry's entrance. What are you doing here? The professor mentioned that you were going to visit this place and I thought I'd see what it was. Harry smiled. I've already had a nice conversation with one of the snakes and with Dr. Kanchanaburi. One of the snakes? The doctor blinked. That's a very rare gift. So I've been told. Harry gave a dry smile. Dr. Kanchanaburi wanted to try something. I wanted to confirm that he'd have no problems with other venom types after getting a look at the blood and venom samples you brought. Kanchanaburi nodded. If you both agree, then I'd like to inject Mr. Black with a small amount of cobra venom. I don't have any problems with that, Harry shrugged. Doctor? I don't think it would do any harm. The doctor nodded. Excellent, Kanchanaburi smiled. And I assure you that there is no danger to you. We have ample supplies of anti-venom on hand to handle any emergencies that might occur. Harry rolled up his sleeve and presented his bare arm. Go ahead. Kanchanaburi pulled out a small needle and handed it to the doctor. Since you are his regular physician, it might be best for you to handle the actual injection. All right, the doctor swabbed a small patch of skin and inserted the needle. What we are going to do is monitor you for several minutes to see what, if any, effect the venom has on your body, Kanchanaburi smiled. After that, I'd like to take a couple blood samples for further study. Okay, Harry nodded. What then? Then, the doctor smirked. He's going to come to me on his knees to beg me to let him give me samples of more venom to inject you with, and offer you one of my children to get more blood samples and raw data, Kanchanaburi laughed. You are an evil, evil woman to let me think that you might not share this research opportunity. Oh, Hanuman, the doctor fluttered her eyelashes. You say the sweetest things. This all hinges on you granting me permission to pursue this course of study, Kanchanaburi smiled, and I don't lie when I say I'll be crushed if you don't give it. You've got it, Harry watched the doctor write down a few readings out of the corner of his eye. Finding anything? Something odd. The doctor nodded. What is it? Kanchanaburi asked eagerly. His blood immediately altered in response to the new type of venom, and his body redirected the infected blood to the area around the piece of fang in his bone. The doctor shook her head. I am going to have to run several more tests. Altered how? Harry asked nervously. I expected the venom to have little or no effect. The doctor looked up from her notes. Instead, your body changed to the new type of venom and made you immune to it. I'm not sure why it moved to the area around you, old bite. Probably a function of the device you put in, Harry shrugged. What happens now? Now? The doctor smirked. You go and watch the show. Later we see what we can do with the data we've gathered. Thank you for allowing me to work with you, Dr. Kanchanaburi gave a wide smile. It has been a pleasure. Happy to help, Harry waved goodbye and walked back to the outdoor snake enclosure to watch the show. Harry spent several enjoyable minutes watching small men lift, feed, and milk snakes larger than they were. At the conclusion of the show, Harry walked off the compound and hailed another cab. Where would you like to go? The cab driver asked as Harry entered the cab. Keosen Road, Harry replied quickly. I've heard that it's a good place to hang out. Maybe, the cab driver shrugged. Traffic was light, and it only took a few minutes to arrive. Paying his fare, Harry got out of the cab and looked around. An entire street was blocked off and filled with backpackers. Smiling, Harry walked into the crowd to see what they were doing and became disappointed after walking up the street. The entire place seemed like it contained nothing but cheap youth hostels and travel agencies. Sighing, Harry walked up to one of the blue buildings and sat on the curb. What's wrong? A pair of buxom Swedish backpackers stopped by Harry. My guidebook talked about how great this place was, and it's a bit of a letdown, Harry sighed. It gets much better at night, the girls smiled. Come back then and you'll be amazed at the difference. Thanks, Harry cheered up. Have you two had breakfast yet? You offering? The girls giggled. Sure, Harry nodded. Where would you like to go? The blue building over there has good Italian, the girls smiled. Or we could go to one of the street vendors a few streets over. Thai sounds good, Harry smiled. Never thought it made much sense to go to a country and not eat the food. Then we know just the place. One of the girls smirked. It has great food and it's not far from here. Harry and the girls walked to the restaurant and made their order. Be warned, one of the girls smirked when the food arrived. The food here is really spicy. You weren't kidding, Harry nearly choked on his first bite. It's good though. There are a few shops that we wanted to check out after this. The girls shared a smile. Would you like to tag along? Sure, Harry shrugged, and as soon as they finished the food found himself dragged into a small shop. The place was filled with small bronze statues and wood carvings. Is there something I can help you with? The young woman behind the counter gave a wide smile as the trio entered. I was hoping to get one of those statues. One of the girls pointed to a statue behind the counter. I wanted some carvings. The other girl pointed to several small wooden carvings. And could you wrap them up? Of course, the woman nodded and turned to Harry. What about you? Well, Harry looked around the shop and noticed one item that seemed to glow under his mage sight. I'd like that amulet. Good eye, the woman nodded. Many people think that they bring good luck. That could be useful. Harry paid for his purchase. Would you mind helping us carry all this to our hotel room? The girls indicated their purchases. It's not heavy, but it is awkward to carry all that without a bag. Sure, Harry nodded, happy to help. The girls led Harry down one of the many side streets, past a barber pole, and across another street to a small hotel. Nice place. Harry admired the surroundings that were much better than the usual youth hostel. It costs a bit more, the girls nodded, but it's much cleaner and more comfortable. Harry walked out of the hotel a few hours later and hailed another cab. Where to? Sakum Vit. Harry closed his eyes and started listening to the radio. Well, Voldemort scowled. We've found him, Master Wormtail Coward. He's in Thailand. Take some recruits and kill him. Voldemort was starting to get tired of having to do this every few days. Thank you, Master Wormtail nodded. It shall be as you say. This is just a small taste of what awaits you if you fail me, Crucio. Peter writhed in agony for a few moments until Voldemort lifted the curse. Not wasting a moment, he rushed out of the room and grabbed a few recruits. You, Wormtail pointed, and your two friends. What is it? The young recruit had heard stories about what happened to Death Eaters that went with the rat. The Dark Lord has ordered me to take you hunting, Wormtail sneered. Come with me. The three Death Eaters arose with great reluctance and followed the rat like man. Touch this portkey, Wormtail sneered. Not a chance, one of the braver recruits shook his head. I've heard about what happens when you try to portkey after Black. We're not porking to Black, Wormtail smirked. We're going in a few blocks away. Black won't have time to work his little tricks on us. Where are we going? The recruit wanted to stall as long as he could. Maybe Black would have left the area before they got there. Some place called Cowboy. Wormtail was starting to lose his temper. Now take the damn portkey. Sharing one last glance and with great reluctance, the Death Eaters placed their palms on the portkey. What's going on? One of the recruits called out. The portkey had landed them in a large crowd, and he watched as several Muggle women grabbed his companions and began dragging them away. Don't do anything. Wormtail was a bit annoyed that none of the girls were showing any interest in him. We can't afford to cause a scene. Make your way towards Black and we'll attack him when we've had a chance to regroup. Understood, the recruit nodded as he was pulled into one of the surrounding bars. Transforming to rat form, Peter made his way to the spot that his contacts had told him that he would find the mysterious Mr. Black. Peter spent several minutes observing the man that he believed to be Mr. Black before he was rejoined by his team. What took you so long? Peter growled. Those girls were really persistent, one of the recruits replied nervously. And they were stronger than they looked, another agreed. They wouldn't let me go. Whatever, Wormtail sneered. We'll wait until we have a good chance to take him and then we'll attack. Harry got out of his cab and began walking up the long boulevard, occasional glances down the side streets alternately shocked and embarrassed the boy as he took in the things that Bangkok had to offer. After a time he became aware of a strange itch in the center of his back. A quick look around did little to stem his growing nervousness, and Harry quickly darted down one of the side streets in hopes of either losing his perusers or finding a more isolated place to bring matters to their natural conclusion. 10 minutes and several curves found Harry walking into a deserted alleyway, concealing himself in one of the doorways. Harry waited for his shadows. We know you're here, Black, Wormtail called out nervously. Come out without your wand and we won't hurt any muggles. Wormtail, Harry growled. Seconds later, a muttered incantation caused a long whip of fire to emerge from his wand. I said drop the wand or I'll start killing muggles. Wormtail was sure that Black wasn't the sort to let innocents die, and he had spent much of his convalescence thinking up this plan of attack. Die! Harry flicked the tip of his wand and sent the stream of fire hurtling towards the rat's face. Wormtail screamed as he felt the fire burn off part of his face, and his hands groped frantically for the portkey that was his only means of escape. The rat was lucky and managed to find and activate his portkey only moments before Harry's next attack would have ended his life. The stunned Death Eaters nearly wet themselves at Mr. Black's eyes, flicked away from the spot that had been occupied by his last victim and focused on them. Hell with this, one of the recruits screamed. Aperitate out. The other recruits nodded fearfully and attempted to make their escape. The dangers were great. Apparition was dangerous in the best of times, adding in the stress of combat. Well, let's just say that their chances of survival were only marginally higher than they'd be if they had chosen to stay behind. Harry growled as he watched the Death Eaters escape, mentally adding another check mark next to the list of times he had let Wormtail escape. Harry sighed. It had all been going so well until this happened. What's going on? Several men stormed the alley with wands drawn. Death Eater attack. Harry slowly lowered his wand. They all got away. Your name, sir? The man at the front of the group pulled out a small magical recording device. Mr. Black. Harry didn't notice the men sharing shocked glances. And it looks like those morons have managed to spoil my day again. I see. The man turned off the device and put it in his pocket. You may go. Thank you. Harry pocketed his wand and walked out of the alley. Why did these things keep happening to him? Why did you let him go? One of the other law enforcement officers watched Harry's departure. Didn't you hear his name? The man at the front smirked. What about his name? Mr. Black is one of the most dangerous men in the world. The man shook his head. And from what I know of him, he wouldn't have done anything without good reason. Besides, what do I care if a long nose decides to kill a bunch of other long noses? Sir, one of the other men interrupted. The wards picked up the signature of several apparition accidents down the street that occurred right before we arrived. Do you think we should check them out? Why not? The man shrugged. Might be fun to hear what they have to say. The men made their way down the street and spent several minutes admiring the pulsating mass of flesh that had once been a Death Eater hunter-killer team. I heard he liked to make things look like accidents. The man nodded with no small amount of satisfaction. Nice to see that my information is accurate. What do you want us to do? Take them back to headquarters and see if you can't get them fixed. The man smirked. I'd like to have a bit of fun with them. What happened? The Death Eater's eyes cracked open. I was hoping that you could tell me. The Death Eater turned to regard the small man in an official-looking uniform next to his bed. I'm not saying anything, the Death Eater growled defiantly. Your friends said something similar. The man nodded. Very well, you're free to go. What? The Death Eater's eyes widened. You're free to go, the man in the uniform gave a frightening smile. As far as I can tell, you've broken no laws during your stay, so you may go. I can't go, the Death Eater shook his head. He'll kill me. That is not my concern, the man in the uniform shrugged. You have broken no laws, so I cannot hold you, and so you may go. I've broken plenty of laws, the Death Eater stammered. I'll tell you anything you want to know, just don't let him get me. Yes, the man in the uniform nodded. Your friend said something similar to that as well. Taken from Harry's guidebook. Japan is a wonderful country, a mix between old and new. Japan is also one of the few places that normal pure-blood attire doesn't usually merit a second glance. To reach the wizarding section of Tokyo, get off at JR Harajuku Station and follow the signs to the Meiji Jingu. When you arrive at the Torii Shrine gates, look for a path going around the left column of the main gate. Harry ported down to the Harajuku section of Tokyo and his jaw dropped. He saw women in black wedding dresses, women in black ball gowns, women in white wedding dresses, men in white wedding dresses, street performers, a giant condom store. Blinking quickly and giving himself a quick pinch, Harry assured himself that he was not dreaming and continued to gawk. Before today he had thought wizards were strange. Now he understood what his guidebook had been referring to. Unwilling to ask why the people were dressed as they were, and unable to stop looking, it took Harry several minutes to walk the 100 or so meters to the entrance to the magical district. Taking one last glance over his shoulder, Harry walked around the massive torii and found himself in the middle of a section of town that would not look out of place in the Edo era. Excuse me, Harry walked up to a small street stand. Yes? The woman at the stand nodded. Could I have some of that one? Whatever it is you're cooking. Harry smiled. It smells really good. Okay, the woman nodded. It's called udon, by the way. Would you like extra sauce with that? Sure, Harry nodded as he smiled down at his bowl of beef and rice. Do you have any suggestions on things to do around here? Visit a shrine. Go see a sumo match. The woman shrugged. What do you like doing? Either of those sounds fine, Harry smiled. Is there a shrine around here? You walked through one to get here. The woman smirked. They've got a magical section down the street a bit. Thanks, Harry finished his food and looked up. How much? 5 Rio, the woman held out her hand. How did you like it? It was great, Harry paid for his meal and got up. Thanks. Walking over to the shrine, Harry spent several minutes admiring the Miko as they performed their duties before walking up to the counter. Would you like to have your fortune told? The pretty Miko behind the counter asked with a smile. Sure, Harry shrugged. Why not? The woman picked up an object that looked like a long section of closed pipe and shook it for a few seconds before turning it over. Harry watched as a small metallic rod fell out of the top of the pipe. One moment, the girl squinted at the rod, then reached into a box to match the writings on a small card with the inscriptions on the rod. It says here that you will live a long and exciting life, filled with danger and strange situations. I've never pulled that one before. The Miko handed Harry the card. Would you like anything else? What are those things? Harry pointed to several small, brightly colored bags. Those are charms, the woman smiled. This one is for good childbirth, this one is for good luck, this one is to ward against bad luck, and this one is to help with tests. I'll take the anti-bad luck charm, Harry smiled. Who needs good luck when I need all the help I can get to keep the bad away? The woman gave a pretty smile. Do you want anything else? Give me a couple of the good study ones, Harry smirked. I've got a friend that'd kill me if I didn't get her one, and I'm the friend that needs help. Here you are, the woman put them inside a small bag. Thank you for coming. Have a nice day, Harry paid for the items and began walking away. What to do? A bit of movement out of the corner of his eye drew his attention, and he looked down at the strange little fox that appeared to be following him. Hello, Harry smiled. What are you doing here? Oh, darn. The fox transformed into a cute young girl with two bushy red tails. How did you see me? I get followed a lot, Harry shrugged, and so I guess I'm just more vigilant than most people. I guess, the girl pouted. Why were you following me? I wasn't gonna do much, the girl smiled nervously. Just play a little trick on you. You like jokes? Harry chuckled. I've got a couple of friends who'd love to meet you then. Really? The girl perked up. Where are your friends? England. Harry smirked. Bit far from here. Oh? The girl's shoulders dropped. You can still write to them, Harry tried to cheer her up. I'm Mr. Black, by the way. Black. The girl seemed to consider the name. I've heard of you. Nothing bad, I hope, Harry smiled. Not much. The girl shook her head. Do you mind if I ask what you are? Harry glanced at the girl's tails. My name is Kumiko, and I'm a kitsune. The girl replied proudly. I've only got 2 tails, but I'm working on getting more. Good luck, Harry nodded. Do you know of any bookstores around here? Sure, the girl nodded. There's one over there, and I think that Kumo will want to talk to you after that. Then why don't you show me this bookstore and then we can go talk to Kumo? Harry suggested. Okay, the girl nodded. Come this way. The bookstore was nothing special, but Harry managed to find several tomes to add to his collection, including one rather large book on native Japanese magical creatures. Can we go see Kumo now? The girl seemed impatient for some reason. Sure, Harry nodded. Let's go. The girl led Harry through a confusing set of streets and alleyways before she finally stopped in front of a small temple. Kumo's in there, she smiled. Can you tell me how to contact your friends that like jokes? Sure, Harry nodded. Just contact Fred and George Weasley in England. I'm sure that they'll be happy to talk about playing tricks on people. Thank you, the girl gave him a quick peck on the cheek, then turned back into a small 2-tailed fox and scurried away. Harry's hand reached up to touch his cheek by reflex and he grinned widely. Being kissed by a pretty girl was another one of the small pleasures that he had learned to enjoy this summer. Shaking his head to clear his thoughts, Harry walked into the temple and looked around. Hello? Yes? A man dressed as a Buddhist monk stepped out. A guest, and one that started on the path to enlightenment. What can I do for you? A Kistune named Kumiko told me to talk to someone named Kumo. Harry smiled. I'm Kumo. The man nodded. Who might you be? I'm Mr. Black, Harry smiled. So I guess the question is, what can I do for you? Ah yes, the man nodded. I've heard of you. As for what you can do, well, we're having a bit of a problem. What kind of problem? Harry sighed. A Yuki-onna has moved onto one of the mountains north of here, Kumo began. And she's shown herself to be very dangerous. I was hoping that you'd be willing to help us deal with her. I'll go up and have a look around, Harry nodded. But I'm not going to promise anything more than that. That is plenty, Kumo smiled. I suggest you catch the next train so that you can... Train? Harry interrupted. It's a large device that goes on a pair of parallel tracks, Kumo explained. They go very fast and... I know about trains, Harry interrupted again. I was just surprised that you didn't want me to take a portkey or something. Horrid things, Kumo sniffed. And difficult to get in this country. Most Japanese use magical Shinkansen to get where they want to go. Then I guess I'll take the train, Harry shrugged. The two of them went to the train station and Harry ordered his ticket. Good luck, Mr. Black, Kumo called out as Harry walked through the turnstile. Harry walked to the platform and gasped in shock as he watched the Shinkansen glide up the tracks. The magical train was much sleeker and looked more modern than the humble Hogwarts Express. Professor, Harry pulled out his Zippo. Yes, my friend? The professor's voice responded. I don't think you'll ever forgive yourself if you don't come to the magical section of Tokyo and go to the train station to see their enchanted trains, Harry smiled. They've even got an enchanted modern train. Thank you, Henchgirl's voice replied. The professor would have responded, but we just started walking through a section of town called Akihabara, and it's filled with electronic shops, coupled with hearing about the enchanted trains. Well, he just couldn't handle the excitement and fainted. Okay, Harry shrugged. Well, I'm going up north to take care of some kind of monster, so I'll be out for a day or two. Have fun. Henchker replied. Later, Harry closed his connection and got on the train. Harry spent most of the train ride going over his book on Japanese magical creatures, and by the time it pulled into his stop, he was confident that he had at least a rudimentary idea of what he was going to face. Shouldering his pack, he got out of the train and began walking into the hills to find the creature that he had been sent to subdue. His first challenge came when he was about to cross a small stream. Stop! A small creature that bore a strong resemblance to a turtle with a pool of water in its head stepped out of the stream. You cannot cross my stream. You're a Kappa, aren't you? Harry smiled down at the odd creature. I am, the creature gave a proud nod. So that means that I can either tip the water out of your head or offer to trade some cucumbers, doesn't it? Harry was glad that he had taken the time to read that book. Cucumbers? The Kappa perked up. I bought several of them before I left town. Harry pulled the vegetables out of his pack. And I'll trade them to you for passage across your stream to my destination, and back from my destination, for me and anyone with me. Fine, the Kappa nodded, but only once each way. You'll have to give me more if you want to cross more. That's fair, Harry agreed as he handed over the cucumbers. Have a good day. Harry crossed the stream and walked deeper into the forest. As darkness began to fall, it began snowing, and Harry decided that he had better make camp. Using his knowledge of weather magic, Harry was able to create an area untouched by the storm to set up his tent and start a fire. I'm cold. An inhumanly pale girl with long, lightly tinted blue hair stumbled towards Harry's fire. So cold. Sit down. Harry pulled a large blanket out of his pack and hit it with a quick warming charm. Take this. It'll warm you up. It's warm? The girl seemed surprised. So much wonderful heat. Yeah. Harry nodded. You shouldn't be wandering around out here alone. You could freeze to death if you weren't careful. So warm, the girl seemed almost drunk of the heat. Oh, thank you. Don't mention it, Harry smiled. Let's get you off this mountain. Off my mountain? The girl blinked. Why? There's supposed to be something dangerous up here, Harry smiled. I came up to see if I could find it. Dangerous? The girl blinked. Something that keeps it cold up here, Harry nodded. They wanted me to come up here to kill it. Why would you kill me if I haven't done anything to you? The wind began to pick up, and the girl seemed to stiffen. Kill you? Harry's eyes widened. I don't have any intention of killing you or anyone else. I just wanted to see what was going on, figured that maybe I could help. Oh. The wind died and the girl relaxed. What are you? Harry stirred the pot on the fire. I'm a Yuki honor, the girl sighed. Call me Oyuki. I'm Mr. Black, and you are what I've been looking for. Harry smiled. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you too, Oyuki smiled. I need my cold, I can't give it up. You seem to like that blanket too. Harry tasted his soup and filled 2 cups. Soup? Thank you. The girl gave a curious sniff, and then brought the cup to her lips. It's good. I try, Harry grinned. Why are the people so afraid of you? They blame me for the people that die in the cold. The woman seemed to shrink. I don't, Harry refilled her cup. I'm frightened. Oyuki confessed. They've sent hunters after me before, but none of them have gotten so close. Do you need to stay here? Harry refilled his own cup. Because I have a place you might like. Where is it? The girl snuggled deeper into the blanket. Far to the south, Harry yawned, and it is a very cold place. Can I still have the warmth? Oyuki clutched her blanket. As much as you like, Harry yawned. Can we continue this in the morning? I've got to get some sleep. Can I stay here? Oyuki eyed him. I like the warmth. You can stay in my tent if you like, Harry nodded. I don't mind. Thank you. She smiled and followed him into the tent and its wonderful warmth. Harry awoke late the next morning to the smell of something cooking. I made you something to eat, Oyuki smiled. To thank you for the food last night. Thank you, Harry stretched out. What did you make? I caught a few rabbits and cooked them on the fire, Oyuki replied proudly. It smells good. Harry took a whiff of the burning bunny. Thanks. How are we going to get to this place to the south? Oyuki tended to her cooking. That depends. Harry took a deep breath. Can you travel through warmer areas? I can, but I don't like it so much. Oyuki nodded. What about portkeys? They should be okay, Oyuki nodded. I had a cousin that used one once. She didn't like it, though. She's not the only one who doesn't like them, Harry replied with a laugh. How about we go to Tokyo and get a portkey from my friend to send you to my island? Oh, that sounds wonderful, Oyuki nodded. Thank you so much. Just give me a moment to arrange everything. Harry pulled out his Zippo. Professor? Yes, my friend, the professor's voice replied. I need you to arrange a portkey to the island for a friend of mine, Harry yawned. She's a Yuki Onna, if that means anything to you. Indeed it does, the professor replied. Is it just for her, or does she have friends that she wants to bring? Just me for now, Oyuki replied. She says that it's just her. Harry passed it along. We'll be there to pick it up later today, and I shall have it waiting for you when you arrive, the professor replied. Professor out? Harry and his new friend made their way back to town and bought 2 tickets to Tokyo, and the professor was waiting to meet them when they stepped onto the platform. Is this the one that needs a portkey? The professor smiled up at Oyuki. Yes, she is, Harry nodded. Is the architect expecting her? Yes, he is, the professor nodded. He also requested that we make a side trip to the island so that you can set up a few wards. Okay, Harry nodded. Did you ever make any progress on those undetectable wards? I believe so, the professor nodded. We'll have to test it out later. Excuse me, Oyuki smiled, but I'm getting a bit too warm and I was hoping to get that portkey. Yes, of course, the professor nodded. Here you are, just say snow to activate it. Thank you, Oyuki gave Harry a kiss on the cheek and handed him a small glass vial filled with a clear liquid. Show this to the man that sent you, he should know what to with it. All right, Harry nodded. I hope you like the island. Oh, I will, Oyuki nodded. Goodbye, Snow. What was she? The professor watched as the strange girl disappeared. Just a girl that needed help, Harry smiled. I've got an errand to run before we leave. I shall prepare the Zeppelin for departure, the professor nodded. I shall see you soon. Later, Harry nodded. It took him a few minutes of walking to get back to the temple where he had met Kumo. Back so soon? Kumo's eyes lit up in shock. Decided not to bother with things? No, I solved your problem. Harry pulled out the small vial that he had been given. I sent her to an island where she won't be bothered and she told me to show you this. You didn't kill her. Kumo smiled. It is rare to see such respect for life in a man with your skills. Come with me. Why? Harry trailed behind the man. Because you are getting a tattoo, Kumo smiled. Just a small one and it won't take long. Why am I doing that? Harry had an amused expression on his face. Because of the gift she gave you, Kumo nodded. She gave you a bit of herself. The only way I know of to use it is to give you a tattoo. It will be quite advantageous. It'll give you a resistance to cold and a greater affinity to cold and ice spells. What will it look like? Harry sighed. He supposed that he couldn't pass up something that useful. Whatever you like, Kumo shrugged. How about a small snowflake? Harry smiled. Seems appropriate. All right, Kumo nodded as he pulled out his tools. It will not take long. Where is it? Harry looked down to where the tattoo was supposed to be. Move your arm a bit, Kumo smiled. It's so pale that you cannot see it unless the light hits it at the correct angle. Harry nodded as his eyes finally made out the form of the pale blue snowflake. Thank you. There was a small side effect that I did not expect, Kumo sighed. It appears that being willingly has increased the potency and well, why don't you have a look in this mirror? What am I looking for? Harry stared in the mirror. Your hair. Kumo gave a weak smile. Some of it has turned white. Oh yeah, Harry nodded. Not too much, but it's noticeable when you look for it. Yes. Well, I apologize for that. Kumo pulled out a small box. Don't worry about it, Harry shrugged. And I had better be going. Before you go, let me present you with this. Kumo handed Harry the box. It is traditional to reward the hero before he rides off into the sunset. What is it? It is a box, Kumo nodded. Inside the box are a few items that you might find useful. What are the items? Harry smirked. Another box, Kumo smiled. That will have a small piece of gold in the shape of a rice grain once a day, a mirror that will show a thing's true form, and a small jewel called a megatama. Thank you, Harry pulled out his Zippo. Professor, port me up. No, thank you, Kumo whispered after Mr. Black's departure, for solving the problem and letting her live. Australia is a lovely country that holds within its borders some of the loveliest beaches in the world. As many people know, many of the early settlers of Australia were convicts that had been arrested for crimes as petty as stealing a loaf of bread. What many people do not know is that this policy was instituted by an unknown and presumably overworked ministry employee who was angered at having his holiday cancelled. He drafted a law that roughly stated, any citizen that steals a loaf of bread shall be punished by being sent to Australia, where he shall be forced to surf and spend his time some of the greatest beaches in the world. The historical record is a bit unclear after that, because moments after the policy was adopted, the aforementioned ministry employee was arrested for the crime of stealing bread and sent to Australia, as were several of his successors. This had the odd side effect of draining most of the ministry's talented people into Australia and leaving the ministry in the hands of corrupt and incompetent fools. It is interesting to note that the consequences of this unfortunate policy still haunt England's Ministry of Magic. For further reading, see the section of this book pertaining to the election of England's current Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge. Australia is not without its dangers, and every animal in the country can be classified as belonging to one or more of the three categories: dangerous, poisonous, and sheep. This is due to the fact that Australia has one of the largest levels of ambient magic in the world. The result of this is that Australian magical fauna is so plentiful that it is nearly impossible to conceal it from the non-magical populations. This problem was addressed by making no attempt to hide the most common magical creatures, and at current time most non-magical peoples think that animals such as the kangaroo or koala are as mundane as they are. This program was not always met with success. See section on the thylacine in Appendix Theta 23. What have you got for me, Professor? Harry asked the smaller man. I've been working non-stop since you told me of your plans to go to Australia, and I've developed some specialized equipment for you to test out. The professor turned. Hench girl, bring the item. Yes, master. The girl shambled in, dragging a large case behind. Put it on the table. The professor nodded to his assistant. And talk normally. If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. No lisping. I was just trying to set the mood. The girl glared at her employer. Someone has to. With the way that you've been refusing to cackle insanely lately. We've had this discussion, hench girl. The professor ignored the glare, and I for one don't want to be sued for copyright infringement. Now get back to work. This conversation isn't over, hench girl shot the professor another glare before smiling at Harry. As soon as Mr. Black leaves, you and I are going to have another chat. The professor shuddered as he watched his assistant leave. I'm in trouble, aren't I? Either that or she's keeping you off balance because she wants something. Harry shrugged. Don't suppose it matters much in the short run. Yes, well, the professor turned his attention to the large case on the table. As you know, nearly every animal in Australia falls into one or more of the following three categories: poisonous, dangerous, and sheep. He patted the case fondly, and that's why I invented this little baby. It is an advancement on one of the most popular personal defense devices presently used in Australia. Wow, Harry replied in an awed tone as he opened the case. Why does it look like a stick? It's not just a stick, the professor looked annoyed. It's been reinforced by carbon nanotubes, weighted to increase damage, enchanted to feel light to the user and increase inertia, and it comes with this stylish carrying case. Okay, Harry nodded. What am I supposed to do with it? When traveling in Australia, you're bound to see some of the native wildlife. The small man began to lecture, and when you do, hit it with your personal defense device before it has a chance to attack. I think I can use this. Harry lifted the stick and tested its weight. Good, the professor nodded in satisfaction. And before you leave, I have just one question. What's that? Can I borrow your new personal defense device? The professor asked nervously. I still have to have that chat with hench girl. He paused and bit his lower lip. And when I do, I'd like to have logic, reason, and a large stick on my side. I'll just be going now. Harry backed out of the room and reported down. Harry felt a rush of energy as he looked around the new land. Magic seemed to be as common as air in this country. Peter was nervous. Everything he had done in his life was in the pursuit of one goal, staying alive. Shaking in fear, he sat down on his bed and tried to get to sleep. It was starting to look like he was not going to survive much longer. The Dark Lord wasn't going to stop sending him after Black, and he would guess that Black wasn't going to stop his plans. If only I knew where Harry was, Wormtail sighed. He'd be dumb enough to fall for some sob story about feeling guilty and wanting to join the other side, and I doubt Black would kill me if Harry wanted to let me live. A distant creak nearly caused Peter to wet himself and his eyes snapped open. Maybe Dumbledore? Peter shivered. Old fools always willing to give a second chance. The question was, if Black would be willing to leave things in the old man's hands. Probably not. Tears ran down Peter's face. What had he done to deserve this? Harry did what many travelers do when first in a new country. He found a bar. Evening. One of the patrons nodded his greeting. New in town? Just got in. Harry nodded. Seems like a nice place so far. God's own land. The man nodded. Could I get a beer? Harry smiled at the pretty bartender. Whatever you think is good. Here you go. The woman put a glass in front of Harry. Drink up. Harry and his group of new friends spent several hours drinking before someone put forth the idea of visiting another fine drinking establishment. And so our hero and 12 of his newest friends stumbled out of the bar and down the street. Hey, look, a giant mouse. Harry tried to focus on the large angry kangaroo blocking his path. Just back away, mate. One of his suddenly sober drinking companions was busy hoping that he could save the new chum from a rather painful experience with the local wildlife. Wah! Harry stumbled and missed getting kicked in a very sensitive place. So you want to fight then? Okay, let's fight. Harry's group of drunken companions watched in shock as their new buddy drunkenly swayed out of the way of several kicks and then fell his opponent with a clumsy punch to the jaw. Why don't you come this way now, mate? One of Harry's buddies took him by the arm. There's another bar down the street. Didn't want to fight, Harry stumbled off. Never want to fight, but I always get into trouble. Don't worry about it, mate. His buddy patted him on the shoulder. He started it and there was nothing you could do. Just wanted to have a quiet time and look what had to happen. Harry gave a drunken belch. Why does this always happen to me? Don't know, mate. The man shrugged. But I do know that another beer will make you feel better. Yeah, Harry froze. Always wanted one of those. Wanted one of what? Harry's buddy blinked. Eh? Well, try not to fall. What's all this then? A police constable walked out of his station and watched as a man scaled the side of his building with what seemed to be the intent to steal the sign. He's a pom, just met him this arvo. He only flew in today, so we took him to the pub. Nice guy, bit enthusiastic at times, but damn he can drink. The constable chuckled and slipped the notepad back into his shirt. No worries then, just make sure he doesn't get into trouble. My head. Harry dug himself out from under a pile of assorted street signs and looked around. What did I do last night? And for that matter, where the hell am I? Afternoon. A heavily tanned face looked down. Was wondering when you'd wake up. Where am I? Harry looked around at the desert landscape. And how did I get here? Came in last night on a broom. The man's smile deepened. Fancy a cold one? Sure. Harry took the oil can and tried to remember the past night's events. I remember getting into a fight with someone and something about a sign, and then it all goes blank. I wouldn't worry about it, the man shrugged. She'll be right, mate. I guess. Harry nodded. Where am I anyway? Nowhere. The man shrugged. Nearest town is Kubapedi, if that means anything to you. No, Harry rubbed his eyes. But at the moment it wouldn't matter if I'd been born there, can't think. Surprised you can breath after all those spider bites, the man chuckled. But I suppose you're a lucky one. Spider bites? Harry blinked. Yeah, the man nodded. Figured you for a goner didn't have enough time to brew up some potion and didn't have any on hand. But you pulled through. Can't say the same for the spiders. Oh, Harry blinked again. I'm Mr. Black. Folks around here call me the mechanic. The tanned man grinned. It's cause of my habit of tinkering with things, both magic and non. Nice to meet you, Harry nodded. Do you know how I get here? Your guess is as good as mine, mate, the mechanic shrugged. Staggered in last night, had a broom with you when you arrived, but it wasn't in any condition to fly. Really? The pounding in Harry's head started to go away. Do you know anyone that can you fix it? The mechanic sucked his breath through his teeth. I dunno, mate. I took a look, and it's as ugly as a bucket of smashed crabs, and half as friendly. I suppose I could fix it, but the parts are gonna be a bitch. You ever considered using one of these instead? The mechanic held up an odd-looking device that appeared to have been cobbled together from a sheet of corrugated iron, baling wire, and half a roll of duct tape. I've been tinkering with one of these for a bit, and I managed to get nearly twice the performance of a firebolt. Then again, the firebolt is a pommy piece of crap. No endurance, one good nip from a yabby or bunyip, and it goes to pieces. Fancy another beer? Sure, Harry shrugged. You want a job? What? The mechanic tossed over another oil can. I got a friend that would love to meet you, Harry explained. Couple friends, actually. They like to invent things too. Never said I was an inventor, the mechanic frowned. Just like to do a bit of tinkering in my spare time. Still, Harry pressed. I think you'd be a great help. My friends are great, but they can be a little disconnected from reality. Heads stuck in the clouds? The mechanic nodded. Be good to have someone around that isn't insane, Harry mused. Do you have a flu connection? Never needed one, the mechanic shrugged. Then do you mind if I leave you a cell flu? Harry pulled one out of his pocket. In case you change your mind, if this thing is half as good as you say it is, then I know that there's a market for it. I suppose, the mechanic scratched his chin. Let me think about it for a bit. I'll be in touch. That's all I ask. Harry nodded. How does this thing work? Same as a broom, the mechanic replied. I assume you know how to use one of those? Yeah, Harry nodded. But won't I be seen on my way to… What was the name of that town again? Kubapedi, the mechanic smiled. Don't worry about it, folks around here mind their own business, and no tourists expect to see strange things in the outback. Okay, Harry shrugged. Thanks, will a point me charm get me to Kubapedi? Best let me show you a few charms to keep you alive in the desert before you go, the mechanic smiled. It's some of the most beautiful land on earth, and some of least hospitable. I'm always happy to learn new spells, Harry smiled, especially when they might keep me alive. The willingness to learn enough to keep yourself alive puts you ahead of half the tourists that come out here, the mechanic smiled. The first charm is a water detection charm. We've managed to get Black's location again, Master, Random Death Eater 221 simpered. Have Wormtail take another team out to destroy him, the Dark Lord sighed, and tell them to do it right this time. Thank you, Master. The Death Eater nearly broke into tears when he wasn't told to be on the team. It shall be as you command. Crucio, the Dark Lord cast the spell reluctantly. It was starting to get a little old. What he needed to do was find a new pain-causing curse. Thank you, Master. The Death Eater writhed on the ground until the curse ended. Then he jumped to his feet and rushed out of the room before the Dark Lord ordered him to accompany the suicide mission. Wormtail, the Death Eater's attempt to sneer was spoiled by his good mood. The Master has a little job for you. What is it? Peter had to focus on his bladder to keep from losing control. The Dark Lord wishes you to get a team and put an end to Black once and for all, the Death Eater smirked. I've already sent a man to get your portkey. We need another portkey, the disguised Death Eater frowned at the clerk. With as many safety features as you can add. Sure thing, the clerk shrugged. But it'll be expensive. Whatever, the Death Eater waved off the concerns. Just make sure that it doesn't cause people to plummet to their deaths, and make sure that it can't be controlled by an outside source, or cause people to reappear in an area too small to hold them. I've got just the thing, the portkey seller nodded. It will put you on the ground and it cannot be tampered with. Really? The disguised Death Eater raised an eyebrow. If anything bad happens, the portkey seller smirked, it won't be because of this portkey. Are you sure about that? Yes? The portkey seller was losing track of the number of Death Eaters that he'd sent to their death. Wasn't important, but still, It would have been nice to know. Is everyone ready? Wormtail looked around, praying for an excuse to delay the attack. Yes, the depressed Death Eaters nodded. No one has to use the water closet? Wormtail was grasping at straws. Everyone has their wand? Yes. Shoulders slumped. Okay. Wormtail's eyes shut. Here we go. The Death Eaters immediately assumed formal dueling stances on their arrival and waited and waited. Are you sure that this is Black's location? One of the Death Eaters spoke up. Yes. Wormtail wet himself. He's just waiting for us to let our guard down. Hey, one of the Death Eaters spoke up. What's this thing? The assorted Death Eaters glanced over. Looks like some sort of animal. One shrugged. Poke it with a stick or something. Okay. The Death Eater took a few minutes to transfigure a rock into a stick. Here we go. Wormtail's first indication that something had gone wrong was a low growl from the mystery creature. Wormtail's second indication that something had gone wrong was the blood-curdling screams of his group as the small, funny-looking creature tore them apart, and Wormtail's third indication that something had gone terribly wrong was a sharp pain in his buttocks, as the small, odd-looking creature tore it off. It was then that he activated the port key and escaped. Above it all and oblivious to the carnage that was taking place below him, Harry Potter put the new broom through its paces. If that mechanic wouldn't come work for him, then he was going to have to come back for more of these things. They were great. The mechanic wasn't kidding when he said it was better than the firebolt. Wormtail reappeared in front of a group of excited Death Eaters. It was an ambush. Everyone is dead. Yes, we know, one of the older Death Eaters nodded. How did they die? What? Wormtail frantically applied pressure to his wounded buttocks. Help me. Oh, very well, the older Death Eater cast a couple of quick clotting charms. So how did they die? Black conjured up some sort of horrible creature and had it attack. Wormtail spoke between screams of pain. It tore everyone apart before we had a chance to fight back. All right, the old Death Eater looked around. Who had torn apart by some sort of horrible creature? I did. One of the newer recruits waved his tict. Hooray! I win the pool. Congratulations, the older Death Eater nodded. Your share comes out to 10,000 gallons. Now who had Wormtail survives but with a ruined buttocks? Harry landed beside an odd-looking contraption that looked like an alien spacecraft. Shrugging, he turned to the nearest person. Excuse me, Harry smiled. Yeah? The man raised an eyebrow. Could you tell me where the nearest bar is? Harry sighed. For some reason I really want something to drink that isn't water. I can understand that, the man nodded. Up the street and to the left. Just so's you know, it's underground. Oh, Harry blinked. Sounds interesting. Have fun, mate, the man nodded. I'd like to stay and talk, but there are opals to be found. Good luck. Harry walked up the street and down to the bar. What can I do for you, mate? The bartender raised an eyebrow. A pint of whatever happens to be good. Harry yawned. Here you are. The bartender put a glass in front of Harry. Just get in. Yeah, damn it. Harry flicked a spider off his arm and onto the bar. Mate, the bartender paled. I don't know how to tell you this, but, well, what he's trying to say is, everyone in the bar froze in shock as the redback spider began suffering violent convulsions. Coo, look at that. Poor thing never had a chance. The bartender shook his head as the spider made one last valiant effort to move before expiring. Sorry about that, Harry winced. For some reason they keep doing that, not sure why. No worries, the bartender shook his head in shock. What did you say your name was again? Mr. Black, Harry sighed. Ah, the bartender nodded. That explained everything. Ah, the men in the bar nodded. Fancy another drink? Sure, Harry nodded. He was beginning to like this country. No Death Eater attacks. Friendly people, and he could learn to live with constant spider attacks. Wasn't like they were poisonous, right? So what's your business, Mr. Black? The bartender asked, and the entire bar froze to hear the answer. I'm just a guy on vacation, Harry shrugged. I'll admit that I've helped a few friends, but other than that, well, I just want to have a bit of fun. Yup, the bar patrons nodded. This was Mr. Black and not another poser trying to score free drinks. So what are you doing around here? The bartender raised his eyebrow. Visiting the mines? This just happened to be the nearest town. Harry took a sip of his drink. Any recommendations? You could try your luck at opal mining, one of the patrons gave his opinion. So what the town was built around? Sounds interesting, Harry smiled. How do you go about it? Get a bit of land and go looking, the man shrugged. No guarantee that you'll find anything, but I enjoy it. How long does it take? Harry took another sip. I'm expecting a few of my friends to come by in a few hours. I'm Henry Blake, and I'll tell you what, Henry smiled. I'll let you poke over my land till your friends get here in a few hours, and you can keep whatever you find. Sure, Harry finished his drink. Don't know that I'll do it that long, but it sounds like fun. What does an opal look like? Just dig till you hear the sound of broken glass, Henry smiled, and keep the rocks that make that sound. Okay, Harry nodded. Where's your land? Go down that hall till you come to a red door, Henry pointed. Knock on the door and tell my wife what I told you. She'll show you to where we're digging. Thanks, Harry nodded. But why is the entrance to your mine down this hall? 'Cause it's also my house, Henry laughed. When we were digging out my house, we found enough opals to pay for the construction. I've got a little one on the way, and I've been expanding the house a bit. Haven't found anything much, but I have high hopes that something will turn up. So it's not so much you letting me dig your mine, Harry smirked, as you tricking me into building a new room for your house. You got it, mate, Henry laughed. Mind you, I wish you the best of luck, and I know that there are more opals down there. Thanks, Harry smiled. I'll see you in a few. Take as long as you like, Henry called after Harry. With my luck, she'll have triplets, and I'll need a bigger room than I thought. You're playing with fire, mate. One of the other patrons took a sip of his drink. Black is a cold-blooded killer. You saw what happened to that spider. He may be a killer, but he's on our side. Henry smiled. I'm not an outlaw, and neither is my wife. What's the harm in letting the man have a bit of fun? With your luck, he'll find a mess of opals and clean the room out. The bartender added his opinion. You'll have your room, but he'll have $1 million. Probably, Henry nodded. But I'll still have my room in 10 years. Who knows what would happen to all that money? Excuse me, Harry knocked on the red door. Yes? A very pregnant and very beautiful red-headed woman answered the door with a large smile. What can I do for you? Henry told me I could come down here and try my luck for a few hours. Harry smiled. That is, if you don't mind. You do know that he's just trying to get out of digging the bloody room himself, don't you? The woman raised an eyebrow. He's been trying that trick on tourists for the last week. I know, Harry nodded. And I'll bet I'm the first one dim enough to fall for it, especially since he admitted what his intentions were. You're right about that, the woman laughed. Come in and make yourself comfortable. I'm Daphne. I'm Mr. Black, Harry smiled. It's nice to meet you. Did you say your name was Mr. Black? Daphne's eyes widened. Yeah, why? Harry blinked. No reason, Daphne shrugged. I'll get you a spade and set you to work. Thanks, Harry followed the woman down a hall. Here it is, the woman waved at a half-dug room. Just don't dig through this wall. What do you want me to do with the dirt? Harry looked around. Just fill the buckets. Daphne smiled. I'll have Henry take it out. Can't let him get out of all the work, can I? I guess not, Harry smiled. Let me get you something to drink, Daphne smiled. I can't let you do all this for nothing. Thank you, Harry picked up a spade and set to work. Daphne returned with a pitcher of lemonade a few minutes later. Don't work too hard. Most new chums work too hard when they first start out, and they get all sorts of problems from the heat or from not drinking enough water. I want you to stop and tell me if you start to feel sick or dizzy. Okay? Okay, Harry took a sip. Thank you. I'll be in the other room if you need anything, Daphne smiled. You have fun. Thank you, Harry set his glass down. I will. Harry worked for a few more minutes before he heard the sound of broken glass. Reaching in, he found and pulled out a small clay-covered stone. Well, Harry smiled as he examined the broken stone with a bluish glass center. I guess I found my first opal. Neat. Harry continued to work and continued to find opals. After a few minutes, a small pile formed in one corner of the room, and Harry decided that he had spent enough time as an opal miner. Selecting a few of the smaller stones for his friends and keeping the first stone for himself, Harry walked out of the room in search of his hostess. Done then. Daphne smiled. Did you have any luck? I found a few stones, Harry smiled as he pulled them out of his pocket. This is the first one I found. It's neat, isn't it? Yes, it is. Daphne nodded. Congratulations, you can call yourself an opal. Oh! What's wrong? Harry's eyes widened in fear. I think the baby is coming. Daphne leaned back. You just relax. Harry pulled out his self-lue. I'm going to call a doctor. Hurry. Daphne gave a strange smile. Because I don't think this will wait. I will. Harry stepped out into the hall. Professor, can you hear me? I hear you, my friend, the professor's voice answered. We're right above your location. Good timing. I was just about to contact you. I need the doctor to come down to my location right away. Harry forced himself to remain calm. The woman is about to have a baby. We are on our way. The professor's voice turned serious. The doctor says to go sit with her and that she will be down in a few minutes. Hench girl says that she is coming too. Okay, Harry nodded. Blackout. Harry rushed back into the room and sat next to Daphne. Well? The woman's eyes focused on his face. The doctor will be here in a few minutes. Harry bit his lower lip. She told me to sit with you until she got here. Breathe? You haven't done this before, have you? Daphne gave a short laugh. No, Harry shook his head. Have you? No, Daphne grabbed Harry's hand. But I guess we can learn together. I guess? Harry glanced at the front door. Where are they? Right here, Hench girl walked in. Sorry it took so long, but the professor passed out. What? Harry's brows came together. He was so excited that there was a baby on the way that he passed out, Hench girl repeated. He gets like that sometimes. Oh, Harry gave a slow nod. Do either of you need me for anything, or can I go tell the father? Go tell the father. The doctor opened her bag. We'll take care of Daphne Blake, Harry answered. Daphne, the doctor nodded. I'll be right back. Harry opened the door and ran down the hall to the bar. Back so soon? The bartender looked up. Henry, Harry called out, your wife is having her baby now. I've got the doctor and Hench girl with her, and I thought you might want to be there too. My baby's coming. Henry dropped his beer. I gotta go. Congratulations, mate. The bartender slapped the man on the back. No, get out of here. Henry sprang from his chair and took off down the hall towards his house. Lucky bastard, the bartender smiled. Yeah, Harry reached into his pocket and slapped a wad of bills on the bar. Drinks are on me till this runs out. Thanks, mate, the bartender smiled. Henry's a good man and we appreciate you doing this for him. I'm just not sure if I should stay here or go with him. Harry glanced at the door. Stay here, the bartender waved towards one of the chairs. At least for a couple of rounds. Okay, Harry nodded. If you insist. The bar patrons cheered and beer flowed like water. Toast after toast was raised towards Henry, his wife, and new child. I better get going. Harry rose after his fourth round. I want to see how Daphne's doing. Give her our best, mate. The bartender nodded. I will. Harry walked down the hall towards the Blake residence and knocked on the door. What do you want? A strange woman answered the door with a frown. I just wanted to see how Henry and Daphne were doing. Harry smiled, and to say hi to Hench girl and the doctor. Who are you? The woman's frown deepened. Mr. Black. Harry gave a nervous smile. Oh, the woman stepped back to allow entrance. Sorry about that, but once the guys found out that Hench girl was visiting, well, you know. Harry blinked. No, I don't. Is everything okay? Yeah. The woman pulled Harry in. The baby was born and Daphne's been asking about you. About me? Harry followed the woman down a short hall and to another door. Yeah, the woman nodded. Go in. Okay, Harry entered the room to see Hench girl cooing over a small bundle while the doctor supervised. Daphne being held in Henry's embrace, and a half-dozen jealous women waiting for their turn to hold the baby. Mr. Black. Daphne smiled when she noticed Harry's entrance. There is something Henry and I wanted to talk with you about. Sure, Harry nodded. We wanted you to be our daughter's godfather. Henry smiled. And I wanted you to know how much I appreciate the way you brought in the doctor to look after my wife. No problem, Harry smiled. It was the least I could do. So will you do it? Daphne got to the heart of the matter. There's no one we'd rather have as her godfather. Sure, Harry thought of Sirius. I'd be honored. Excellent, Henry smiled. So what do I have to do? Harry's smile widened. Nothing, Daphne shrugged. We don't go much for ceremonies, so you don't have to worry about that. We just wanted her to have a godfather and we couldn't think of a better person. Thanks, Harry glanced down at his watch. And unfortunately it looks like we have to go. Come on, henchgirl. Okay, henchgirl gave the baby one last cuddle before handing her back to her mother. Let me walk you to the door, Henry smiled. Sure, Harry nodded as the group walked out of the room. I just wanted to tell you again how much I appreciate what you did for us. Henry clapped Harry on the shoulder. And to let you know that if there is anything I can do for you, well, you just have to ask. Same here, Harry nodded. If I can do anything to help, I will. Henchgirl, make sure they have a way to contact us. I did, Henchgirl nodded. Before I forget, Henry laughed. I have to know, did you find any opals? A few, Harry pulled them out of his pocket. I kept a couple for souvenirs and left the rest in the room. Why didn't you keep them all? Henry examined Harry's finds. I just wanted a few things to give to my friends. Harry handed an opal to Henchgirl and another to the doctor. And I wanted this one for myself since it was the first one I found. Weren't many anyway. Well, I'm glad you had enough luck to find something then, Henry smiled. Come back any time. I might, Harry nodded. Aside from the spider attacks, I really like it here. Goodbye. Goodbye, mate. Henry shook all their hands before they stepped out into the hall. And thanks again. Thanks for the opal, Henchgirl examined her gift. Yes, thank you, the doctor agreed. Don't worry about it, Harry blushed. Professor Porter's up. Nice fellas, Henry shook his head, leaving a few behind for me. No, for my little girl. Are you going to go see what he left? One of the women asked. Why not? Henry shrugged. Can't be much, not after seeing what he took with him, but it's more than I got now. It wasn't easy, but Henry managed to walk to his daughter's unfinished bedroom to grab what Mr. Black had been generous enough to leave behind. Cole. His jaw dropped in shock. Looks like my little girl's going through college 12 times if she wants to. Henry gathered the opals in 2 large 5-gallon buckets and carried them into the bedroom to show his wife. I assume that there's a reason you brought those dirty buckets into my clean bedroom. Daphne gave him a mock glare. Look at this, Henry's face was pale and his voice was hoarse. Look what Mr. Black left behind for his goddaughter. Well, Daphne stared at the small fortune in her husband's hands. I don't suppose he'd be willing to come back and be the godfather of our other children, would he? We don't have any other children, Henry blinked. We will, hun, Daphne smiled. Now that money isn't as much of a worry, I'm going to want a bigger family so that the little one doesn't get lonely. So, Amelia took a sip of her tea. How are things in your department these days? Can't complain, her guest shrugged. We've got plenty of mysteries to look into, enough to keep us busy anyway. I see, Amelia nodded. I've been receiving some odd notes lately. Oh? Her guest raised his eyebrow. From someone who says that he's a Death Eater that wants to defect, Amelia snagged a scone. He says that he doesn't want to go free. So what does he want then? He says that all he needs is a medium-sized cage. Amelia took a bite out of her scone. Preferably in a place with no dementors, but he's willing to compromise on that if need be. Oh? Odd that he doesn't care about the dementors. Her guest grabbed a cookie from the tray. Do you know the name of this Death Eater? No, Amelia shook her head. All I know is that he's afraid of Mr. Black and wants to be protected. Ah! Her guest gave a polite nod. So, Amelia smiled. Has anything odd happened in your department? Nothing much. Her guest shrugged. Business as usual and all that. I see. Amelia kept her face impassive, so I was wondering. Yes? Who does your department report to? Amelia batted her eyelashes and smiled. Me, her guest smiled. You know that, Amelia? And who do you report to, Gryffindor? Amelia gave him her best stare, the stare that had caused hardened Death Eaters to break down and confess their crimes, the stare that had Fudge break down and call for his mother in the last budget meeting. No one. Gryffindor blinked. Oh, why are you asking? Well, Amelia sighed, I've been trying to get information on Mr. Black. Gryffindor coughed a bit and held up the teapot. As far as I know, and I should know, he isn't connected with my department in any way. Can I refill your cup? Sure. Amelia held up her cup and palmed the small card that appeared on her saucer. It looked like Gryffindor didn't think her office was secure enough for this conversation. We don't know much about Mr. Black. Gryffindor put the pot down. No affiliations, wealthy, good knowledge of spells, nothing definite though. So you've got the same information I do. Amelia exhaled. I suppose it can't be helped. I will let you know if I find anything, Gryffindor smiled, or if I hear any more interesting rumors. I appreciate that, Amelia smiled, and I'll see you tomorrow for our afternoon tea. Goodbye, Amelia. Gryffindor left the room, and Amelia allowed herself to glance down at the card he'd given her. 2 hours later, Amelia followed the directions printed on the card to a rather unusual location. Glad you could come. Gryffindor led Amelia into a small room with 2 seats and a table. There are some things we need to discuss. What is this place? Amelia looked around at the barren walls. One moment, please. Gryffindor locked the door and took a seat in the chair facing Amelia. What? Amelia froze as 2 large cylinders lowered onto her and Gryffindor's chairs. What is all this? We are sitting in what is probably the most warded room in England. Gryffindor smiled, and the device that was lowered onto us is based on a device invented by one of our Muggle counterparts in America. What is it? Amelia couldn't believe the lengths that the head unspeakable was going to. It's called the Cone of Silence, Gryffindor smiled. But I believe I called you down here to talk about Mr. Black. He's a very interesting fellow. What can you tell me? Amelia was all business. First of all, Gryffindor smiled. I'd like to know why you thought he might be my superior. It's part of the information I was given by the Lovegoods, Amelia replied. Oh, the Lovegoods. Gryffindor nodded. That's another mystery. The man knows virtually everything that happens in the Department of Mysteries, and to my knowledge, he's never so much as set foot in our wing of the Ministry. A few months ago, I dropped a cabinet on my foot in my private office, and no one was around. The next day, I got a get-well card signed by the Lovegood family. Young Luna admonished me to be more careful next time. I assume that you've checked your office for bugs? Amelia blinked. Checked and rechecked, Gryffindor sighed. By different groups of people every time, nothing has ever been found. Oh, Amelia blinked again. I guess that's more evidence for my theory that they're working for Mr. Black. I hadn't thought of that, Gryffindor rubbed his chin. It does explain quite a bit, and I do admit that we do have evidence that there is another department, maybe not in our government, or any government, but there are just too many coincidences to dismiss. Too many inconvenient people die in accidents. The cabinet that crushed might have prevented me from running into a Death Eater ambush, and since then I've been wondering about some other strange occurrences. I became an aura because the desk sergeant offered to tear up a citation for underage magic use if I'd sit through the exam. Amelia was stunned by the revelation. And I only got caught because there happened to be another aura walking down my street that day and she saw through my clumsy anti-detection wards. An odd feeling, isn't it? Gryffindor looked around. To think that someone is pulling our strings. What can you tell me about Mr. Black? Amelia leaned forward as far as the device would allow her. He's a baron in Transylvania. He's extremely wealthy. He has knowledge and books so rare that they might as well be legend. Gryffindor smiled. He has poisonous blood and can cast undetectable spells. We believe that he kills an average of 4 to 10 dark wizards or creatures a day, and we believe that he is at least 13,000 years old. What? Amelia went bug-eyed. How can you be sure? It's just a guess based on the evidence we've been able to collect, Gryffindor smiled. While in Egypt, he discovered several tombs hidden so well that they'd gone unnoticed for centuries, and he did that on his way to a valley that had been hidden and warded by the greatest mages in the old kingdoms. Several of these tombs spoke of the Dark One, the Destroyer, a being of unspeakable horror that laid waste to the lands of the kingdom and may have been responsible for the sinking of Atlantis. Mr. Black mentioned that he was in the area to recover a book that we believe was a diary written by Merlin. Miss Black also mentioned that Merlin was thrown out of Atlantis for being too weak and later referred to the great mage as a snot-nosed kid. My God, Amelia blinked. What happens if he decides to turn his attention to us? I thought that we were living in dark times now, but it doesn't look like that is a worry." Gryffindor smiled in relief. "Information suggests that he is either retired or redeemed. One of my men has advanced the theory that Black may not have been a Dark Lord so much as a freedom fighter. His well-known hatred for Death Eaters and any sort of blood purists, combined with the fact that we don't know much of anything about the society in ancient Atlance, means that the government could have been something along the lines of what will happen if Tom Riddle wins." "History is written by the winner," Amelia agreed. "Wait, didn't you say that Merlin was thrown out of Atlantis for his lack of power?" "It fits?" Gryffindor's eyes lit up. If they were willing to exile a wizard for low power, then imagine what they would have done to a squib or a muggle. "And following your theory," Amelia gave a slow nod, "they did it to the wrong person and angered Mr. Black, who destroyed their civilization in retaliation." Gryffindor's eyes widened. "My gods, think what would have happened to us if Fudge's insane plan had annoyed Mr. Black, or worse, if they had accidentally harmed one of Black's friends." Amelia froze. "I don't think we'd be having this conversation if they had made a mistake like that. I don't know if anyone in England would be having any conversations if something like that happened." Gryffindor shuddered. "Welcome back," the professor smiled. "I trust you had a good time. How's the child?" "We had a good time," Harry nodded. "And the child is fine. They even made me her godfather." "Congratulations," the professor smiled. "If you don't mind, I was hoping to make a quick stop on the island so that you can put up a few wards, and after that, well, you see, it's like this, hench girl. The professor and I have a conference we'd like to attend in America," hench girl spoke up. "So we'll have to hurry if we want to get there on time. So we won't be able to make many stops between here and the United States." The professor smiled nervously. "Okay," Harry nodded. "I have to be in England in a few days, so I don't mind us hurrying a bit. When do you have to be in the United States?" "I was hoping to be there in the next 24 hours, the professor shrugged. "It's not a very long conference, at least not the part we're interested in." "Sure," Harry nodded. "Will we be able to make it to England in the next few days?" "Certainly," the professor nodded. "Why?" "Because there's something in Sweden that I'd like to do in 3 days, and I have to be back in England for something long-term after that." Harry shrugged. "Sorry to spring this on you." "Quite all right," the professor waved it off. "Hench girl, full speed ahead." "Why are you telling me that?" Hench girl glared. "You're the one hogging the controls again." "Silence, wench," the professor screamed. "When I say all ahead full or full speed ahead or any sort of nautical term, you say aye aye, Captain." "No," hench girl turned up her nose. "You will do as I say." The professor walked up to hench girl and glared up at her. "Make me," hench girl glared down. "All right, I will." The professor nodded. "Mr. Black, let me borrow your personal defense device." "I'm staying out of this," Harry began, backing away from his two squabbling friends. "Give it to him," hench girl shrugged. "Little shrimp's gonna need all the help he can get." "Bye now." Harry walked out of the room as fast as he could. Hench girl walked over to the door and stuck her head out. "He's gone." "Excellent," the professor nodded. "Now it's time to discuss that thing that we do not wish him to know that we are discussing, because it would ruin the surprise." "He's not here," hench girl blinked, "so you don't have to be evasive." "Oh," the professor blinked. "Right. The odd couple asked me to come down here and tell you that we've arrived on the island." The doctor stuck her head through Harry's doorway. "Thanks," Harry yawned. "I'll be right out." "Been busy?" The doctor glanced around the small cabin, paying particular attention to the piles of books and scrolls. "Yeah," Harry nodded. "I've been researching every ward I could find. Some of the Egyptian ones are really nasty." "Gonna put them up?" The doctor raised her eyebrow. "I'm thinking about it," Harry nodded. "Depends on if I can find a way to make all the wards work together." "Good luck then," the doctor shrugged. This wasn't really her area of expertise. "Thanks." Harry put on his jacket. "Let's go." "Right behind you," the doctor smirked. Harry walked out of his room and into the professor. "I see that the doctor told you that we've arrived." "Yes," Harry nodded. "I've also been doing some research on wards. I think I've figured out a way to get all of these to work together." "Let me see that, please." The professor held out his hand. Yes, it looks like you've been able to work everything out. Will it work with the wards that you've been developing? Harry blinked. Or the wards that the architect is or has put up? They should work. The professor squinted at Harry's notes. Give me a minute. All right, Harry watched as the professor made several additional notes. Henchgirl, take a look at this, the professor bellowed. Not so loud, Henchgirl glared. I'm standing right here. Take a look at this, the professor handed Henchgirl the notes. Tell me what you think. They should work, Henchgirl gave a slow nod. I'd like to get the architect's opinion before we start everything, though. I'd appreciate that, Harry nodded. I'm always happy to get a second, third, or even 15th opinion. Do you mind if I add a few of my family's wards? The doctor cut in. I'm also going to want to add a few things to the hospital. Consult with the architect, the professor suggested. He's the expert with wards. You might also want to look over his hospital designs. Thanks, the doctor nodded. I'll do that. This way, the professor gestured. The architect put in a dock for the Zeppelin so we won't be porting down. Cool, Harry shrugged. The group walked towards the nose of the Zeppelin and emerged on a large raised stone platform. Glad you could make it, the architect smiled. We've just finished the foundation and we're ready to lay the cornerstone. Great, Harry nodded. I assume we're going to tie the wards to the cornerstone? Yes, the architect nodded. The first few layers, anyway. There are several fingers of rock jutting out of the ocean around the island. My current plan is to erect several towers on these fingers of rock to extend the reach of the wards and to put in a few more layers. Sounds good, Harry nodded. Could you take a look at these notes? I think we've managed to get all these wards to work together, but I'd still appreciate your opinion. Let me look at that, the architect nodded. Do you mind if I make a few changes? Please, Harry nodded. All of these will work with the goblin wards that I'm planning to erect, the architect made a few notes. But I think you can tighten them up if you make these changes. It also closes a small gap you left here. I see, Harry nodded. Thanks. When do we start? To make things as effective as possible, you're going to have to start casting the second the stone falls into its final position, and you won't be able to stop until all these wards are placed. I'm not sure I have that much energy, Harry admitted with a frown. I'll do my best, but we've already taken care of that, the doctor smiled. Over the past 2 weeks, Henchgirl and I have been brewing a few potions to take care of that little problem. The minus side of that is that you won't be able to cast more than the most basic spells for about a day after the casting. That's fine, Harry took a breath. Show us the way. I'll give you the tour, the architect smiled. To start with, this is not the Zeppelin's permanent berth. We've incorporated a dock in the main building's final design. Excellent, the professor nodded. This way, the architect led the group down a narrow path. To our left is some temporary housing for the workers and for the people you've sent us. What people? Harry raised an eyebrow. Several Yuki on our, the architect smiled. They're a godsend. Without them we wouldn't have had a chance to get so far along. They've managed to keep the worst storms away. With them around there is no chance that we'll miss a day because of the weather. I'm glad they're working out, Harry nodded. So they're happy here? Oh yes, the architect nodded. Tremendously happy. Good, Harry smiled. I'm glad. And here we come to the building site, the architect smiled. Wow, Harry stared down at the large pit. Why did you dig so deep? I wanted to put in a few underground levels, the architect replied proudly. And I guess I got carried away. Eventually I hope to have tunnels and vaults under every square inch of this island. It's enough to keep me busy for years. Great, Harry shrugged. Where's the cornerstone? That's it right behind you, the architect's grin nearly split his face. That is the cornerstone. Harry's eyes widened as he took in the 50-ton rectangular rock. It's bigger than the house I grew up in. Megalithic construction is the only way to go, the architect smirked. When it's finished you won't be able to fit a razor blade through the seams. It is more difficult than normal methods, but it will last forever and it's much stronger. How are you going to get it in place? Harry couldn't believe it was possible to build anything with things that big. It's already been heavily enchanted to allow me to do this myself. The architect smiled. It took 3 teams of goblins 2 weeks to get it right. Construction will speed up after this when I bring in the machinery and allow the construction teams to do their jobs. Why didn't you have them help you with this? Harry couldn't tear his eyes away from the giant stone. It's traditional for the builder to set the first stone, the architect shrugged. Who knows if that tradition is there for a reason? Better safe than sorry. And it gives you a bit of the glory right off, Harry smiled. Okay, let's do this. All right, the architect began chanting under his breath in an unrecognizable language. It's moving, henchgirl cried out. A line of sweat made its way down the architect's forehead as the massive stone took flight. Be ready, I can't hold this up much longer. I'm ready. Harry drew his wand. Harry began casting the second the giant stone made contact with the ground. For hours he kept up the pace, allowing himself only enough time to down one of the doctor's potions, every time his reserves began to get too low. Rivers of sweat poured down Harry's face and neck as he cast wards that hadn't been used in generations in dead languages that hadn't touched a human tongue in just as long. He's starting to tire, the doctor cried out. Watch him. He's almost done. The professor checked the notes. Just one more layer to add. Claptu verada. Harry's voice was hoarse as the last ward snapped into place. I'm done. How do they look? Magnificent, the architect smiled. Alone they would withstand an assault more powerful than had been seen on this world. When we finish adding the goblin charms, they'll be impenetrable. Try not to let anyone hear that, Harry felt faint. Unsinkable ships tend to come to a bad end. As you say, the architect nodded. I'm afraid that we haven't been entirely honest with you when we told you that we brought you here to complete the wards. Oh? Harry raised an eyebrow. Yes, the architect nodded. We had another, more sinister reason to bring you here today. It was all Henchgirl's idea, the professor smirked evilly. Happy birthday, Henchgirl screamed. What? Harry blinked. Happy birthday, Henchgirl repeated herself. Uyuki will be here with the cake in a few minutes. I hate to say it, Harry gave a sheepish smile, but my birthday was about a month ago. And we didn't have a party, Henchgirl nodded. So, we're having one now. It's more of a surprise that way. Oh, Harry scratched his chin. I guess that makes sense. How do you normally spend your birthday? Henchgirl was bouncing with excitement. Well, Harry sighed, I usually spend it alone. In the past few years I've had a few letters. You've never had a party? Henchgirl's lips started to quiver. I've had a party, Harry smiled. It was great. Just one. Henchgirl's eyes started watering. I had 2 per set of. Harry frowned. Does it count as a party if there's only one other person that doesn't hate your guts? Oh, and there was some cake too. You're having a party every year from now on. Henchgirl's hands balled up into fists and she thrust them in her pockets. Here with us, okay? Okay, Harry nodded. I got the cake, Oyuki smiled. I'll transfigure some chairs and a table, the professor volunteered. I'll do. Harry blanched at Henchgirl's glare. Just stand around and enjoy my birthday. That's right, Henchgirl nodded. What kind of cake is that, Oyuki? It's a baked Alaska. Oyuki smiled. What else? So this is what it's like to have a family. Harry mused to himself as he ate his portion of cake. Have you given any thought of what you're going to do with your Nundo? The doctor smiled across the table. No, Harry shook his head. Why? I was hoping that you'd be willing to leave it here, the doctor smiled. I've decided to stay so I can personally oversee the construction of my hospital, and I'd like to keep the Nundo around so I can continue my research. Is there a place to keep it around here? Harry looked around. I had the workers construct something temporary while you were putting the wards up. The architect nodded. Temporary in the sense that it'll only last a few hundred years. Oyuki giggled. The houses he put up to house us are quite shoddy. A few good hurricanes and a dozen earthquakes, and they'd fall to the ground. I told you that you'll be getting more permanent quarters in the fortress when I have that built, the architect groused. You only need to wait a few months. I'm just playing with you, Oyuki smiled. Anyone else would have considered what we have to be good enough. Oh, the architect turned back to his cake. What do you need to do in America? Harry turned towards the professor and Henchgirl. We have a convention we'd like to attend. The professor smiled. It shows all the newest advancements in magical law enforcement and military spells and equipment. Henchgirl smiled. Not to mention the strong civilian contingent. The professor nodded. The Americans are much more interested in dueling and lethal spells than most other groups of people. We're presenting a few things, Henchgirl smiled. Would you mind speaking a few words of introduction before we present? The professor smiled hopefully. Sure, Harry shrugged. If you think it would help. Hey Bruce, a man walked into the office of the head of Australian law enforcement. Got some news for you. What is it, Bruce? The chief raised an eyebrow. Turns out that Mr. Black was here. Bruce scratched his chin. Got into a fistfight with Aru and won. Anything else? The chief yawned. Found a few $1 million opals, Bruce shrugged. And the bushmen have been seeing dingoes chewing on some strange white masks around the area that Mr. Black was thought to have been. Right, no worries. The chief shrugged. Let's go get a beer. Good idea, Bruce nodded. I'll ask Bruce and Bruce if they can come along. I think Bruce might be off too. See if Bruce is out of the hospital, the chief nodded. Might as well have the whole department come along. We're here. Henchgirl stuck her head through Harry's door. How'd you do that? Harry blinked. It's a new spell I'm working on, Henchgirl smiled. Think how fun and useful it will be to be able to walk through walls. I guess. Harry put down his book and put on his coat. Let's go. Okay, Henchgirl pulled her head out of the door to allow Harry to exit his room. What's all this? Harry walked out of his room and into a pile of luggage. We're showing a lot of things at the convention, Henchgirl smiled. Cool. Harry nodded. Sounds intersetting. You've already seen it all, Henchgirl grinned. Do you need my help to carry it all? Harry looked around. No need, Henchgirl shook her head. We're testing out a new delivery system so we don't have to carry any of this down, and we hope to sell most of it so we don't have to carry it back up. Well, the professor was getting a bit annoyed at being ignored. Let's all get down then. Don't we need to leave someone behind to raise and lower the wards? Harry smiled. We fixed that, Henchgirl smiled. Now your cell phone sends up an encrypted signal that trips the wards and allows us to pass. Cool, Harry shrugged. Let's go. The three friends appeared in the lobby of a casino in front of a large bank of slot machines. Hold on a sec, Harry smiled. I want to try this. You do know that the odds of winning are slim to nil? The professor smiled. Yup. Harry gave a cheerful nod. Okay then, the professor shrugged. Harry walked up to one of the machines and slipped a coin into the slot. The machine clicked word and blinked, and then sirens went off and lights began blinking. Congratulations, sir. One of the casino employees walked up. You've just won our motorcycle in our motorcycle slot madness. That's nice. Harry smiled. Is it okay if I try this again? Whatever you like, sir, the man nodded. Harry placed another coin in the slot and pulled the handle. The machine lit up and sirens began sounding again. What the hell? Harry's eyes narrowed. Congratulations again, sir. The casino employee smiled. I've never seen a person make 2 big wins in a row on the slots. It was supposed to go click whir and take my money, Harry frowned. That's the experience I wanted. Why the hell won't it do that? Just lucky, I guess. The casino employee had dealt with people stranger than this and kept his composure. Perhaps if you try again? One more time, Harry nodded, placing another coin in the machine and pulling the arm. Finally, Harry smiled. I thought it would take forever to lose. Yes, sir, the employee nodded. What would you like me to do with your winnings? Can we play with the motorcycle? Henchgirl perked up. I've got some ideas to improve it. Sure, whatever, Harry shrugged. I'm gonna want to ride it later, though. Make sure it can fly. Okay, Henchgirl nodded. And the money? The employee asked quickly. Harry sighed. The professor can give you the number of my bank account. Still don't know how he got it, but he'll give it to you. Right, the employee nodded. Then enjoy your stay with us. Thanks, Harry nodded. I guess I'll be in the convention if anyone needs me. I'm coming too, Henchgirl nodded. Let the professor deal with the money problems. And happy to do it, the professor smiled. Henchgirl and Harry wandered towards the defense convention, and the casino employee turned to the professor. May I ask why he was disappointed that he won twice in a row? He just wanted a normal gambling experience, the professor smiled. Who wins at slots? I see, the employee blinked. Who do I put down as the winner? Mr. Black, the professor grinned. I'll give you the information needed to deposit it into his account in just a minute. Ah, the employee nodded. That explained everything. The master has ordered us to go after Black again, Wormtail sagged. He says that if we stop trying to kill Black, we'll be seen as weak. The assorted Death Eaters shared worried glances and several made plans to turn themselves in. You three, Peter gave a disinterested wave. Come with me. Harry and Henchgirl spent several minutes looking through the assorted booths and networking before it all became a bit tedious. I'm going to go get something to drink, Harry smiled. Want to come? Sure. Henchgirl nodded. Let's go. Harry and Henchgirl made their way to one of the casino's bars, and Harry ordered himself a drink. And for you, the bartender turned to Henchgirl. Give me a soda water, Henchgirl nodded. And a teaspoon of salt, half a tablespoon of brown sugar, a shot glass full of lime juice, and 3 grams of lemon zest. Right away, the confused bartender wandered off to procure Henchgirl's order. I prefer to make my own drinks, Henchgirl shrugged. They taste better than anything he could make. Well, Harry blinked. You are a potions mistress. That's right, Henchgirl nodded. I am Dolph. Do you have any plans for the convention? I was just planning to wander around and see what I could see. Harry smiled. Maybe check out one of the other conventions in the hotel. Sounds like fun, Henchgirl nodded. There are some interesting conventions in the casino, and I'm sure there are a few parties to go to. Here you are, the bartender brought over a large tray covered in Henchgirl's orders. And it's on the house if you'll allow me to watch you make whatever it is you're going to make. Okay, Henchgirl nodded. But don't steal my recipe. I'd be happy to sell it to the casino, but I don't want it used without my permission. Of course not, the bartender nodded. I just had to know what you were going to do. Okay, Henchgirl spends several minutes mixing her drink. And you end up with a citrus soda that's much better than anything on the market. Wonderful, the bartender nodded. I think I might be able to convince my boss to buy this from you. What was your name again? Henchgirl. Henchgirl smiled. I definitely think I can convince my boss to buy this then. The bartender's smile widened. The marketing aspect alone is astronomical. Okay, Henchgirl smiled. Do you want a sip, Mr. Black? Sure, Harry shrugged. Grabbing the glass, Harry took a short sip. It's good, thanks for letting me try it. No problem, Henchgirl smiled. Harry glanced in the mirror. We might want to get back to the convention. Why? Henchgirl blinked. Because I think I recognize one of the people at that table, Harry smirked. And I want to mess with his head. Might be best if we leave the bar after I set things into motion. Okay, Henchgirl nodded. Harry raised a finger to signal the bartender. Yes, sir? The bartender asked politely. Is that Mad-Eye Moody at that table over there? Harry asked with a grin. I believe it is, sir. Why do you ask? Just wanted to make sure. Harry gave a sadistic grin and tossed a bag of coins on the table. Buy the table a round of drinks and give Moody a message from me, would you? Of course, sir. The bartender made the bag disappear. And who may I say the message is from? Harry gave an evil grin. Mr. Black? I understand, sir. The bartender nodded. What was the message you wanted to send? And get this. The Italian drained half his glass. He was carrying a dagger that was over 2,000 years old. It's no wonder he spotted all our tales. We were following the man that taught Flamel how to make his bloody stone. So nothing, one of the Japanese shook his head. I saw Black. I'm sorry to interrupt you, gentlemen. The bartender placed a tray with several glasses and one bottle on the table. But someone has bought you all a round of drinks. Who? Moody and half the table eyed the bartender suspiciously. Look at the label on the bottle. Moody squinted at the offending object and began to read aloud. Johnny Walker, Black. He also wanted me to give you a message, sir. What's that? Moody's eye was spinning as he attempted to find one of the most feared men in the world. Constant vigilance. Harry and Henchgirl giggled as they walked out of the bar, imagining the expression on Moody's face when he got the message. Sorry to interrupt, a man walked up with a smile. But you wouldn't happen to be Mr. Black and Hench Girl, would you? Yes. Why? Harry nodded. Because you're scheduled to speak in about 3 minutes, the man waved Harry towards a raised platform with a podium. What do you want me to say? Harry asked nervously as he followed the man to the stage. Just tell them what your favorite spell is and why, the man shrugged, and then step off the stage so that the professor and Hench Girl can present their products. I can do that, Harry nodded. Then do it, the man smiled. And now on behalf of Black Ink, we have Mr. Black who will give us a few words before we bring out his colleagues. The man gave Harry a short introduction. Harry walked up to the podium and cleared his throat. In my opinion, Harry began, the purpose of law enforcement is to defend the public from every dangerous and psychotic idiot that would do them harm. My favorite spell for this is a group of Death Eaters appearing on the raised platform next to Harry caused him to lose his train of thought. The thousands of magical law enforcement, military, defense contractors, and armed civilians watching Harry's speech blinked in surprise. Prepare to die, one of the dumber Death Eaters threatened. These are those idiots that I've been telling you about. Harry couldn't believe what was happening. Notice the dark robes and white masks. Flee before the might of the Dark Lord, another dim Death Eater tried. I didn't call them here. Harry looked around the room. Is this anyone else's demonstration? The convention goers eyed each other and drew their wands. Well, Harry looked around. I guess the only thing to say here is fire when ready. The room lit up as nearly every spell known to wizard kind was flung at the Death Eaters. Their hastily erected shields might as well have been made out of tissue paper for all the good they did. The Death Eaters all expired within the first minute of what would end up being 20 minutes of constant spells. Well, Harry's eyes focused on a small rat limping off the stage. Wormtail, in a flash, Harry's scythe was in his hand. Peter screamed as his death loomed closer and closer. At the last minute, Peter managed to activate his portkey and escape. Damn, Harry sighed. He's always getting away from me. Sorry about that, folks. The assorted convention-goers stared at Harry's scythe in shock. As I was saying, I've found the most useful spell for everyday dueling to be the Reductor Curse. It is easy and quick to cast. It is legal in every country, and it will put a man down quickly. Not many people can move with a large chunk missing from their chest. Thank you. The audience applauded enthusiastically, and Harry took a bow before he stepped off the stage. With the tough job of following Mr. Black's rather impressive performance, the announcer paused to let the laughter die down. Is the Professor and Hench Girl the head researcher and head potions mistress of Black Ink? Seconds after Harry left the stage, dozens of operatives for dozens of agencies rushed to find semi-private locations to make their reports. This is Secret Agent 86 calling Control. Come in, Control. A man whispered into his cell phone. This is headquarters, a female voice replied, and I've told you to stop reporting in like that. It stopped being funny after the third time. Still amuses me, so I'm still going to use it, the man smirked. What was so important that you ducked out early to report it? The woman's voice sounded bored. Our information that Mr. Black would speak was correct, the man whispered. And our speculation that he'd provide a bit of entertainment was also correct. I've never seen so many spells cast at once. I'm still failing to understand what was so important that you had to report in now. The female voice was starting to sound annoyed. After the battle, Mr. Black focused on a small rat and attempted to kill it with a large scythe. The man's tone turned smug. The rat escaped by activating a portkey. Mr. Black then apologized and mentioned that he'd been after that rat for quite some time, and that it was always getting away. It is pure speculation on my part, but I know of only one figure that is said to use a scythe to reap his victims. I see, the female voice paused. Return to the convention and report any other items of interest. You also have permission to buy anything you desire from Mr. Black's company, Control Out. I knew I'd be able to get her to do that if I kept pestering her. The man gave a satisfied grin. I'll be placing myself in terrible danger if I continue my attempts to get her to make more references like that. And loving it. Harry spent a few more minutes wandering around the defense show. before it all got tedious, and he decided to see what else the hotel had to offer. Upon wandering out of the massive convention hall, the first thing he saw was several people dressed in outdated costumes much more detailed than those worn by the average pureblood. "Excuse me," Harry walked up to a girl in a colorful saloon girl outfit. "Yes?" The woman twirled her parasol. "What can I do for you?" Harry focused on the woman's face. "I don't mean to be rude, but, well, why is everyone dressed like it was 100 years ago? We're part of the Single-Action Shooting Society." The woman patted Harry on the cheek. "Magical branch, it's better known as cowboy action shooting. So you all dress up like cowboys and have fun?" Harry perked up. "Yes," the woman nodded. "I guess that's one way of looking at it." "Can I play too?" Harry's eyes lit up. "It sounds like fun, and I have a couple hours to kill." "Sure," the woman nodded. "Come on." Harry followed the woman down a hall and to a large set of double doors. "The casino set up a portal to a small town in Colorado," the woman smiled. "It's one of those enclaves that hasn't chanced much in the last 100 or so years." "One of those enclaves?" Harry followed the woman through the door and his jaw dropped in shock. In front of him was a town that wouldn't have been out of place in the Old West. "There are more of these." "Quite a few," the woman nodded. "Scattered around the western states. Most of the inhabitants are magical, but there are a few that well, you just can't tell. There are even rumors that some of the tribes withdrew to some hidden valley or patch of forest and warded the area so heavily that no one will ever find them." "Wow." Harry looked around. "Most of us enjoy access to modern amenities, so we'll only do this sort of thing on weekends and conventions like this. Then we go home, but for some, it's their life." The woman smiled over at Harry. "Don't worry about your appearance. You can buy a period outfit later if you decide you like this sort of thing." "My outfit?" Harry looked down and watched his clothes change into something more appropriate. "Won't be a problem." "Nice trick," the woman smiled. "Now all you need is a hat. There are plenty of vendors around if you want something." "Thanks," Harry smiled. "I'm gonna go explore right now. See you later." "Have fun," the woman waved. Harry walked up and down the dusty street a few times before finally wandering into the town's small general store. "Can I help you?" A grizzled old man standing behind the counter peered out. "I need a hat," Harry smiled. "Can I buy one here?" "Sure can," the old man nodded. "And anything else you need?" "What do you need to do what everyone else is doing?" Harry scratched his chin. "A pistol would be all you need to start with," the grizzled old man shrugged. "I don't have much contact with them. They roll into town a couple times a year and then they roll out and things get peaceful again." "Oh," Harry nodded. "What kind of pistol should I get?" "Colt's single-action army always feels good in the hand," the old man smiled. "A Smith & Wesson Schofield or Russian could also be a good choice." "Okay." Harry licked his lips. "What do you recommend?" "I always thought a single-action army had the best feel," the old man shrugged. "And it is the gun most people think of when they think of a cowboy gun." "I'll get that then," Harry nodded. "What caliber do you want it in?" The old man smirked. "Caliber?" Harry scratched his chin. "It's a way of measuring the diameter of a bullet." The old man grinned. "For example, in theory, 50 caliber would be about half an inch." "Oh," Harry gave a slow nod. "What do you suggest?" "Well," the old man pulled a few bullets out from under the counter. "I'd pick one of these three. The first one is a 45 caliber, sometimes called a 45 long, used to be the Army's pistol caliber, and it still has a following. The second is a 44-40. That means that it is a 44 caliber bullet over 40 grains of black powder. It's basically a 45 case neck down to 44 caliber. See the way the case tapers down?" "Yeah," Harry nodded. "What's the third one?" "The third one is a 38-40, the old man smirked. "Can you tell me what that means?" 38 caliber over 40 grains of black powder? Harry shrugged. "Yep," the old man nodded. "The thing you got to remember is that caliber isn't always correct. They'll sometimes fudge the numbers a bit to make a round number. For example, the 38-40's bullets have a diameter of .401, and the 44-40 has a diameter of .427. So what do you think I should get?" Harry scratched his chin. Depends on what you want to do with it. The old shopkeep scratched his chin. If you want to compete, then all of them would work good. If you want to pair it with a rifle, then I'd recommend either the 38-40 or the 40-40 because of the taper. If you want to do anything else with it, then I'd recommend the 45 long because the ammunition is much more available these days. I'll take the 45 long then, Harry sighed. I'd like to say that I'll just compete with this thing, but my life isn't that lucky. I see. The old man reached behind the counter. Take this then. It's basically an old single-action army, but it's got a few improvements. Like what? Harry regarded the pistol with more than a bit of interest. Replacing flat springs with coil springs. The ability to load all 6 rounds safely. The old man shrugged. That sort of thing. Okay, Harry nodded. Do I need anything else? A holster, the man nodded. And a belt. I'd recommend a 3 persons on a good belt. And I suppose you, Harry, had played this game 1,000 times. Just happen to have one, the old man nodded. And a few others designs if you want one of them. I don't know enough to have an opinion, Harry shrugged. Could you show me how to shoot? I can, the old shopkeep nodded. I'd recommend that you hand this off to a good gunsmith before you use it, though. Why? Harry blinked. Isn't it ready to go now? It is, the old man nodded. And I'm sure it'll do good. Doesn't hurt to have a gunsmith look it over, something you should always do before you shoot a used gun. Okay, Harry yawned. Do you know a good gunsmith? One of the prospectors that drifts in and out of town is a gunsmith, the shopkeeper nodded. You'll find him sitting out front next to the wooden Indian. Harry walked out and found a man with a beat-up old hat sitting on a bench in front of the store. Excuse me? Harry nodded. Y'all hear about the mine? 2 eyes squinted out from under the brim of the hat. I was hoping you could look over my new pistol, Harry shrugged. They told me you were a gunsmith. And a miner? The man nodded. When you need it? Later today, Harry shrugged. I wanted to try my hand at competing in the contest. Not much time to work then. The man frowned. But I suppose I have time to smooth the action and lap the barrels. Harry didn't have a clue what the man was talking about. I also have to have a few hours to learn to shoot. Borrow another gun while I work then. The man spat at a dust devil. Okay, Harry nodded. I think I can do that. What were you saying about a mine? There's 2, the man held up a gloved finger. The first is mine and I ain't selling. And the second? Harry blinked. Second's been lost for years. The man shrugged. And you won't find it less one of them wants you to. Okay, Harry nodded. Why did you think I wanted to talk about a mine? 'Cause some no-good sidewinding yellow-bellied galoot's been trying to take my mine? The man spat again. And I ain't gonna give it to him. Thought you might have been one of his men. Sorry about that. No problem, Harry shrugged. Anyway, I can help, Mr. Ed. And no, not unless you have the power to drive off a developer. Ed shrugged. Lousy bastard wants to put a ski resort on my property and turn this town into another cesspool of Eastern money. I might be able to help with that, Harry nodded. Know anyone that can send a message to this guy? Yeah, I know someone that'll get a message to that no good yellow belly. Don't know that it'll do any good. Who? Harry smiled. Fella in the saloon named Blix. Ed spat again. He's the dumb ugly one. Can't miss him. Thanks, Harry smiled. One question though. Why don't you just sell to him and get a new place to live? I was born here, and I was raised here, and dadgummit, I am gonna die here, and no sidewinding bushwhacking, horn swaggling, cracker croaker is gonna row in me bish and cutter. Harry blinked. Translator didn't seem to get that last part. The shopkeeper has my pistol. I'll go talk to Blix and see if I can set up a meeting. Harry walked up the street and to the saloon. Taking a deep breath, Harry pushed through the batwing doors and walked to the bar. I'm looking for a man named Blix, Harry yawned. I need to send a message to his boss. What do you need to say? A large, ugly man rose from one of the bar stools and glared down at Harry. I want to buy him out, Harry smirked. It would be a shame to let this old town die. In my opinion, there are already too many soulless yuppie playgrounds. No need to make another. Your opinion don't mean nothing to me, the large man popped his knuckles. Now get out. I really think that this is something that you should pass on to your boss, Harry sighed. It had to happen. I don't. Blix balled his fist and took a swing at Harry's jaw. You don't want to do this, Harry stepped to one side. Yes, I do, Blix took another swing. Now stand still. Fine, Harry's hand whipped out, and he jabbed the man in the stomach. Blix fell to the ground and started coughing. I'll get you for this.
That's what they all say, Harry frowned.
That was easy. You're dead, Blix glared up at Harry. When I tell my boss, he'll send a dozen men here to kill you. Just be sure to tell him my offer. Harry walked out of the bar with a strange expression on his face. How in the hell had he stopped such a large man with such a light blow? I'll tell him, Blix called out as Harry left. And you better be here when he comes with his men or we'll burn the town down and come looking for you. Whatever, Harry shook his head. You'd heard one death threat, you'd heard them all. Harry walked back to the store and up to the counter. How'd things go? The old shopkeeper raised an eyebrow. Heard you were gonna go talk to Blix? He didn't want to pass my message to his boss, Harry yawned. So I explained to him that I really wanted to talk to his boss, and he agreed that he'd take my message. Just like that? The old man raised an eyebrow. Well, Harry scratched his chin. He did say something about calling me out. I wouldn't worry about it, though. If you say so, the shopkeeper shrugged. Let's show you how to use a pistol. And get a hat, Harry smirked. Forgot to do that. What kind of hat would you like? The old man smirked. It's a personal choice, so take your time. No advice on what to buy this time, Harry chuckled. Beaver felt is the best stuff. The old man waved his hand. Other than that, it all goes. That one. Harry pointed to a black Stetson with a turned-down brim. Okay. The old man grabbed the hat and put it on the counter. Any reason why you chose that one? Reminds me of something I saw on TV when I was a child, Harry sighed. I watched it through a crack and it's something that made me happy at a time when I didn't have much to be happy about. That's as good a reason as any. The old shopkeeper nodded. Let me just grab one thing and your outfit will be perfect. Sure, Harry nodded. And then can you show me how to shoot? How to draw and fire, the old man nodded. What did you say your name was again? Mr. Black. Harry put his new hat on with a grin. Then here you are, Mr. Black. The old man slid a stack of business cards across the counter. Put these in your pocket and meet me out back. One question before I go, Harry smiled. When Ed got going, I had trouble understanding him. Yep, the old man nodded. When Ed gets going, he starts talking in Old West gibberish. You're lucky not many people get a chance to hear it anymore. Hey, boss? Blix took off his hat and walked into the boss's office. Stranger in town causing trouble. What kind of trouble? The boss's eyes narrowed. And why can't you handle it? I tried, boss. Blix began to sweat. But he was too fast for me. He said he wanted you out. Said he was willing to pay a fair price. What did you tell him? The boss frowned. I told him not to run. Blix smiled. And that we'd be there later to settle things. Good, the boss smirked. Round up the men. We wouldn't want to keep the stranger waiting now, would we? No, boss. Blix gave an evil smile. How am I doing? Harry smiled. He'd been practicing for the last few hours. Not bad, the old man allowed. I haven't seen many people with faster reflexes, seen quite a few with better accuracy. I'm hitting the targets, Harry protested. Let me tell you a story. The old man made himself comfortable. Then you can get your gun from Ed and get to the competition. All right, Harry nodded. There was an archery competition in England a few hundred years ago, the old man began. The target was a fish, and at the end of it 3 archers hit the target. The king looked out and had to decide which man won. Finally, he called the archers up to his booth. The king asked the first archer what he had been aiming at, and the man replied that he'd been shooting at the fish. The king asked the second man the same question, and the man replied that he'd been shooting at the fish's head. Finally, the king asked the third man, who replied that he had been shooting at the fish's eye. Who do you think won? Accuracy is important. Don't stop practicing. You can never be good enough. Thanks, Harry nodded. Here you are, the old miner walked up to hear the end of the story. I did what I could and it'll shoot as straight as you need it to. Straighter, Harry smirked. Thanks. No problem, the miner nodded. Good luck with your contest. Thanks, Harry holstered his revolver and walked up the street to the competition. Harry walked a few blocks and came to a man sitting behind a registration desk. Come to enter the contest? The man smiled. Yes, Harry nodded. Okay, the man nodded. Local or SAS? I'm just passing through, Harry shrugged. Okay, the man made a few marks on the paper. Who are you? I'm just a guy on vacation, Harry sighed. Okay, the man gave a slow nod. You're all set. Harry walked past the sign in desk and to a large line. This the line for the contest? Yep, the man in front of him nodded. I'm Jody. You the guy that busted up Blix? Yep, Harry nodded. You know what it means to be called out, don't you? Jody frowned. Why don't you explain things to me? Harry cracked his neck. Well, Jody began, you walk out to the middle of the street and then you shoot at each other. Of course, Blix and his crew will probably try to cheat. Do I really have to stand in the middle of the street and draw while they try to shoot me from cover? Harry just didn't understand these people. So what the code says, Jody nodded. Course, most of the old-timers will respect you more if you ambush them with a shotgun, but that's just my opinion. Sounds good, Harry shrugged. Anything I'm supposed to do before this all happens? Go to the saloon and get yourself a drink, Jody nodded. It's tradition. Okay, Harry sighed. Why did his life have to get so complicated? And next we have, the announcer glanced down at his notes, a guy on vacation. He'd have to spice that up a bit, the lone stranger. Harry walked up to the line to sound of the crowd's cheers, and he waved at the audience before taking his place on the line. How'd he do? The old man shot a stream of tobacco juice out his lips. Not so bad, Jody smiled. Not so good, but one does have to take into account that he's new to all this. New hell, the old man gave a rasping laugh. I remember a figure in black buying supplies from my father's store. That man was one of the best shots I've ever seen. Can't be him then. Jody chuckled. Like we said, he did fairly well for someone who's new at this and not too bad for someone that's been doing this for a while. Just out of practice. I'd bet, the old man gave a frightening smile as he pulled something out of his pocket, and I imagine that using lead would throw him off a bit too. What are you saying? Every legend has its basis in reality. The old man opened his hand to show the small item. It can't be. Jody stared in awe. It is, the old man nodded. A silver bullet puts a whole new perspective on things, don't it? What did you say his name was again? The younger man was stunned at this new piece of information. He's calling himself Black these days, the old shopkeeper smiled. Feel sorry for the fella dumb enough to call him out. Boss? One of the men knocked on the door to the boss's office. I don't think you want to go after that stranger. Why not? The boss raised his eyebrow. You know something I don't? I was in town and I found out who he really is. The man wiped a bead of sweat off his forehead. Well? The boss snarled out with it. Mr. Black. The man's voice broke. You've called out Mr. Black. I'm sorry, boss, but I'll quit if you tell me to go after him. I've heard what he does to men that go after him. That's just what he does when he's in a good mood. The boss nearly lost control of his bladder. I've heard what he does when he's in a bad mood. So, what do you want us to do, boss? The man licked his lips. Tell the men that we're packing up. The boss smiled. And that I'll give them their severance pay when I get back. Yes, boss, the man agreed nervously. Harry was sitting at the bar in the saloon when the boss found him. Excuse me, the sinister-looking man smiled nervously. You wouldn't happen to be Mr. Black, would you? I am, Harry nodded. Why? Well, the boss nearly wet himself. Again, I've heard that you had a little tussle with one of my men. He goes by the name of Blix. Yeah, Harry nodded. He said something about calling me out? I'm sure that was all a misunderstanding. The boss's hands were shaking. I also heard that you were interested in buying me out. Yeah, Harry nodded. Well, the boss put a few papers on the bar. Here are the deeds to all the land that I've acquired in this area, if you want to purchase them. Sure, Harry smiled. How much do you want? The boss began to shake. Here. Harry put a few gold eagles on the bar next to the deeds. Is this enough, or do you need more? That's plenty, the boss squeaked. Great, Harry nodded. I knew that once you got my message you'd be willing to come down here and talk things out. After all, you're a businessman, not a robber baron. Yes, the boss nodded. If you'll excuse me, I have to go somewhere else now. Have a good day, Harry smiled. What a nice fellow. Right, the bartender picked up a glass and started polishing it. What did you do to him to make him react like that? What do you mean? Harry raised an eyebrow. We just talked. Okay, the bartender shrugged. What do we do if another developer comes? Call me. Harry finished his drink. How do we do that? Here. Harry slid one of his new business cards across the bar. Use this. His business finished, Harry downed his drink and walked out of the bar and back to the portal that would get him to the casino. The bartender picked up Harry's business card and went deathly pale. What is it? Jody asked. It can't be. The bartender shook his head. Let me see. Jody grabbed the business card and examined it closely. Well, every legend has its basis in reality. Have gun will travel. Flew Black, San Francisco. Mr. Black, what in the hell is he? By Luna Goverlude, it has recently come to our attention that Mr. Black has been seen using a massive scythe as a weapon, and the question has come up of what exactly Mr. Black is. In the past, it has been reported that Mr. Black is a several thousand-year-old ex-Dark Lord, a living god of fertility, really dangerous, some sort of secret agent, and now the incarnation of death. So I guess the question is Mr. Black the incarnation of death, or did some past scribe witness Mr. Black using his scythe in battle and use him as the basis of the figure we now think of when we think of death? The evidence seems to show that Mr. Black is all of these things and more.